The week before my wedding, I learned that love can die without making a sound. It does not always explode. It does not always shout. Sometimes it just quietly steps aside and lets betrayal walk in. My name is Emily. I was 26 when it happened. I worked at a small dental clinic in our town. Nothing fancy. Just steady income, steady life. My fiancé Jake worked at a hardware store. We were not rich. We were not glamorous. But we were planning a simple wedding in the community hall near my parents' house. And my best friend, Sarah, was helping me plan everything. She had been my friend since we were 12. She knew how I cried when my first crush rejected me. She knew how nervous I was before job interviews. She knew that I always believed love should be honest. 3 days before the wedding, Sarah stayed at my apartment to help pack gifts and decorations. We laughed. We ordered cheap pizza. We tried on my wedding bangles and took silly pictures. If you saw us that night, you would have said we were sisters. The next morning, I borrowed her phone to call the decorator because mine was charging. Her phone was unlocked. A message popped up from Jake. I can't wait for tonight. Yesterday was perfect. I froze. Maybe it was innocent. I told myself. Maybe they were planning a surprise for me. Then another message came. Sarah, don't worry. After the wedding, we'll find time again. My hands started shaking. Again. My heart knew before my mind accepted it. I opened the chat. I should not have, but I did. There were weeks of messages, flirting, late-night calls, photos, plans too. Meet when I was at work. He wrote to her the same things he used to write to me. You're the only one who understands me. She replied, I wish we met first. 3 days before my wedding. If you were in my place, what would you do? Would you scream? Would you throw the phone? Would you wake her up? I did none of that. I sat on the edge of my bed and felt something. Inside me braked very quietly. She came out of the bathroom wrapped in my towel, smiling. Did the decorator answer? She asked. I looked at her and suddenly saw a stranger. I handed her the phone. I hope last night was worth it, I said softly. Her face went pale. She did not deny it. She did not cry. She said something worse. It just happened. Those 3 words, it just happened. As if betrayal is an accident. As if lying for weeks is a mistake. Like spilling coffee. I did not confront Jake immediately. I did not call him screaming. I told her to leave. She tried to explain. Tried to say she loved him. Tried to say they were confused. I said only one thing. Please go. That night, I did not sleep. The next day, I met Jake at a coffee shop. He looked nervous, but not guilty. I placed his own printed messages on the table. He did not deny it either. He said something similar. I didn't mean for it to happen. Strange. How betrayal always just happens. I canceled the wedding. No dramatic social media post. No public announcement. I told my parents the truth. I told the guests there was a family emergency. The town whispered anyway. But I did not fight. I left. 2 weeks later, I moved to another city. I blocked both of them. I did not ask for explanations. I did not beg. I did not try to win him back. I disappeared, and that was my first revenge. Silence. 6 months later, I heard they got married. Yes, they did not wait long. Some people cannot stay alone. They need someone next to them, even if it is built on betrayal. Mutual friends sent me pictures. Sarah in a white dress, Jake smiling, the same hall, the same decorations I had chosen. If I say it did not hurt, I would be lying. It hurt in a slow, heavy way, but pain changes shape over time. I did not go back home. I found a job at a larger dental hospital. I rented a small 1-bedroom apartment. I learned to cook for one. I learned to sleep without checking my phone. I learned that peace feels strange at first. Do you know what is harder than being cheated on? Not checking their social media, not asking mutual friends about them, not imagining what they are doing, but I forced myself. Because healing requires discipline. 2 years passed. I started saving money. I started smiling again. Not because I forgot, but because I refused to let their mistake define me. Meanwhile, their life was not as perfect as the wedding photos showed. I learned that slowly, from whispers, from cousins, from random messages. They fought a lot. Jake was insecure. He checked Sarah's phone often. She accused him of still loving me. He accused her of flirting with coworkers. Trust never returned, because trust built on betrayal is like a house built on sand. It looks stable until wind comes. Financial problems followed. Jake lost his job. Sarah worked as a freelance designer, but income was unstable. They moved into a smaller apartment. Arguments became louder. Neighbors complained. The same love that once looked passionate became suspicious. That is the thing about relationships born from cheating. Both partners know exactly what the other is capable of. If he cheated with you, he can cheat on you. If she lied for you, she can lie to you. Every late message becomes a threat. Every smile becomes doubt. And I was not there. I was living quietly, working, building, healing. 3 years after I left, my father fell sick. I had to return to my hometown for a few months. The first week back, I avoided familiar streets. But small towns are small for a reason. You cannot hide forever. I saw them at the grocery store. Sarah looked thinner. Jake looked tired. They saw me at the same time. Shock. Then something else, regret. We stood in silence for a few seconds that felt longer than years. Jake spoke first. Emily. His voice trembled. Sarah looked at me carefully, like she was measuring my reaction. I felt calm, not angry, not jealous, just distant. How are you? He asked. I'm fine, I replied. Sarah forced a smile. You look different. Yes, I said. I am. We exchanged polite words, but I could feel tension between them. They did not stand close. They did not touch. Their eyes moved quickly when the other spoke. Before leaving, Jake said quietly, Can we talk sometime? I looked at Sarah. She looked away. About what? I asked. He swallowed. About everything. I did not agree, but I did not refuse either. 2 days later, he called from an unknown number. I answered. Please meet me, he said. Just once. Curiosity is dangerous, but closure sometimes needs conversation. We met at the same coffee shop where I had confronted him. Years ago, he looked older, more serious, less confident. I made the biggest mistake of my life, he said. Immediately, I did not interrupt. I thought it was attraction, excitement, ego, but it was not love. And now? I asked. He looked down. We fight every day. We don't trust each other. She checks my phone. I check hers. I can't live like this. I listened. He leaned forward. I never stopped loving you. Those words, the same words he once sent secretly to Sarah. I almost smiled at the irony. I want to fix it, he continued. I'm ready to leave her. There it was, the offer. The dramatic return, the chance to take him back. If this were a movie, this would be the scene where the betrayed woman wins. But real life is not written by fantasy licing. I asked him one simple question. When you cheated, did you love me? He froze. Yes, he whispered. I shook my head gently. Where there is love, there is no cheating. He tried to argue, tried to say people make mistakes, tried to say he was confused. I stopped him. You did not lose me because you slept with my best friend, I said calmly. You lost me because you thought I would stay. He looked like I had hit him. I'm different now, he insisted. I stood up. A cheater does not change because he regrets. He changes because he respects. And you never respected me. He asked for another chance. I gave him something else. Freedom, double quotes. Enjoy. The rest of your life, I said quietly. You killed your love yourself. And I walked away. That evening, Sarah came to my parents' house. She did not call first. She stood outside nervous. I invited her in. She looked exhausted. He met you, didn't he? She asked. Yes, She laughed bitterly. He told me. So? They still told each other things. Interesting. She sat down. We were stupid, she said, both of us. I remained silent. We thought it was exciting. Forbidden. Like a movie. She wiped her eyes. But every fight ends the same way. With your name? There it was. The ghost in their marriage. Me. You want revenge, don't you? She asked suddenly. I looked at her carefully. No, I said honestly. You already punished yourselves. She cried. Not dramatic. Real, he says. He wants to leave me. I felt no satisfaction. Only clarity. That is, between you two, I replied. You both made choices. She looked at me with something close. To respect. You could destroy us, she said softly. I know. I still had screenshots, messages, photos, proof. I could show their families, expose everything. But what would that change? They were already broken. Revenge is not always about hurting someone. Sometimes it is about refusing to fix what they broke. I stood up. I forgive you. I said. Her eyes widened. But I will never trust you again. Forgiveness does not mean access. It means freedom. 2 months later, I returned to the city. 6 months later, I heard they separated. Not because of me, because of them. Because suspicion eats love slowly. Because betrayal does not disappear when you get married. Because trust is not something you rebuild easily. Last week, Jake sent one final message. I still think about what we could have been. I deleted it because what we could have been ended the moment he chose someone else in secret. If you were in my place, would you have taken him back? Would you have destroyed their marriage? Or would you have done what I did? Sometimes the strongest revenge is not noise, it is peace. And peace is something they will never have with each other. I did not win him back. I won myself back. And that is enough. Have you ever had to walk away from someone you loved to save yourself? What did that silence feel like for you? Drop your story below. I'm reading everyone.